All right, so in chapter 3, didn't really find out a whole lot about the note and the shattered window. Maggie just remembered the handwriting is all. And her and Milo were walking around town, and Maggie forgot she had to go walk the dog. She had to go walk the dog. So they run over to the place where they need to walk the dog. No farm. And Milo gets scared, gets afraid, because he realizes that No Farm's family lives in Brooklyn's most famous haunted mansion. So let's find out more about that haunted mansion in chapter 4. I laughed in his face. I mean, obviously I laughed, because I couldn't fathom that Milo was serious. Haunted mansions? Who believed in haunted mansions? And if this mansion was so famous, how come I've never heard of it before? I've lived in Park Slope for my whole life. This building has been here for a lot longer than that. And I never, ever do I recall hearing anything mention about it being a haunted mansion, which I told Milo in between fits of laughter. You don't know what you're talking about, Maggie, he said, his tone harsher than I've ever heard it before. I guess he was still reeling from being laughed at. I tried to stop, but it wasn't easy. Okay, it's haunted, I said, deciding to humor him. But how can you say it's famous when I've never heard of it before? Milo frowned and shook his head, unable to speak. Did I mention that my boyfriend is kind of sensitive? And when I say kind of, I actually mean very. This mansion used to belong to the Addams family, he said. The what family? I asked, walking back to where he stood on the sidewalk. You've heard of Jonas Addams, right? He's the guy who invented Addams miniature chocolate bars. Never heard of him, but I love Addams chocolate, I replied. Of course you do, said Milo. Everyone loves Addams chocolate. They're more famous than Hershey and Cadbury put together. And their classic mini bar is insanely delicious. Those first bites are so sweet and satisfying, even the sound of them tumbling out of the cardboard is just pleasing. You sound like the commercial, I told him. Yeah, because I really like the chocolate. You didn't know it was invented right here in Brooklyn? Their old factory was right next door. It's condos now. Milo pointed to a familiar-looking high-rise. My friend Beatrix lives there, I said, on the top floor. That's where they made all their chocolate-flavored bubble gum, which was really popular about 100 years ago. I had no idea you were such a chocolate historian, Milo. It's part of Brooklyn's history, Milo replied, not realizing I was teasing him. The chocolate gum was huge. So you're telling me this old mansion is haunted by a bubblegum inventor? I asked. Not exactly, I asked, interrupting. He died and continued to stick around? I fake laughed at my own joke. One of us had to. Milo insisted on staring at me in silence, almost like he was annoyed. But that made no sense. It's not like I did anything wrong. I elbowed him and forced myself to smile, even though his expression made me nervous. It's a joke. Get it? He stuck around because gum is sticky? I get it, grumbled Milo. Okay, clearly that wasn't my best material, but what is wrong with you? I asked. If you knew the real story, you wouldn't be laughing. Milo blinked up at the building and shivered. Then he lowered his voice, almost like he was scared, and those alleged ghosts were listening. This whole mansion used to belong to the Addams family. It's the biggest place in the entire neighborhood. The family was so loaded, elevator inside. Their house was the first to have a private elevator in all of Brooklyn. It's still pretty rare, I think, right? I asked. I don't know anyone with their own elevator. Neither do I, said Milo. Anyway, one summer, the Addams family went to their summer house in Maine, and one of their servants stayed behind, the maid. I guess she was supposed to take care of the place, except the elevator broke and she got stuck inside, and no one knew. Yikes. They didn't find her for an entire month. Double yikes. She must have been starving, I said. Milo shook shook his head. She was way worse than starving Maggie. She was dead. Oh. Suddenly the wind picked up and seemed to blow right through my jacket. I shivered. That's awful. I know. They don't even know if she starved or death or suffocated first. I don't think there was much air circulation in those old elevators. Really, it was just one giant coffin. I felt both creeped out and skeptical at the very same time. Are you sure the story is true? I asked. That's what I heard, said Milo. The maid's name was Margaret, and she still haunts this place, apparently. People hear her singing, and she moves stuff around. My grandma knows someone who used to live there, and they had to move away because she used to visit them at night. Visit them? I asked, like in their sleep? Milo nodded. Doesn't that mean they had nightmares? That they imagined the whole thing? No, there was physical evidence too. Their glasses kept breaking. I kept waiting for Milo to smile, to laugh, to tell me he was kidding, except he didn't. What do you mean their glasses kept breaking? I asked. Just what I told you, Milo replied stubbornly. Drinking glasses or eyeglasses? I wondered. Stop making fun of me, Milo said. I'm not making fun of you. I'm making fun of the ideas of ghosts. Same thing, Milo claimed. It wasn't, but I decided not to harp on the issue. So you honestly believe this place is haunted? Yep, said Milo. I tilted my head, tried to figure out how to break the news to him gently. But, Milo, there's no such things as a ghost. How do you know? I just do. Do you have proof? He asked. I laughed, but his expression remained stoic. I tried again. I don't have proof there aren't ghosts, but I don't have proof that there are either. I always figured ghosts are like unicorns or the tooth fairy, something you believe in as a kid and then grow out of. So you're calling me a kid now? Asked Milo. I'm 3 months and 2 days older than you, and Margaret was a real person. My grandma showed me an article about the accident. She was from Ireland and had just moved here to New York to make money for her family. That doesn't make sense, I said. Lots of immigrants came over from Ireland back then, said Milo. Look it up. That's where my great-grandparents came from. Park Slope was full of people like them. That's not what I meant, I said. There's no way that Margaret's ghost is haunting this place, because there is no such things as ghosts. Have you ever seen or heard something you couldn't explain? Asked Milo. Don't you ever get the feeling that someone's watching you? Sure, I said. That doesn't mean those sensations are caused by ghosts. Well, it doesn't mean that they aren't. Milo's eyes, which were normally super warm and sweet, twinkly even, got dark and kind of squinty. He balled his fists together, as if he felt his anger so intensely he couldn't contain it. I've never seen him so upset before, and it made me uneasy. I giggled out the nervousness, but this seemed to anger him more. If you're just going to make fun of me, I'm not going to stick around, he said gruffly. Wait, I said, are you really upset? I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. You didn't, said Milo, clearly wounded, but I've got to go. Before I got the chance to ask him what was going on, he took off. And I couldn't even chase after him because I had to get to work. So Milo got super angry at Maggie because Maggie kept saying that there's no such things as ghosts and kept making fun of Milo. But Maggie couldn't go after him because she had to go to work. I watched Milo walk up 8th Avenue and turn right onto 1st Street and out of sight. Then I took one last look at the mansion from the sidewalk. It was kind of a spooky looking, large and imposing, and the twisty dead tree out front didn't help matters one bit. But that didn't mean a thing. It was just a building. I knew this for a fact. So, after taking a deep breath, I bounded up the stairs to the front door and rang the buzzer. Who is it? One of Beckett's moms asked. It's me, Maggie, I said. The lock clicked and hauled the heavy door open and bounded up an old creaky staircase all the way to the 5th floor. Then I knocked on the apartment door for 5A. No Farm, a super friendly, super-sized, and scrappy mutt, bounded toward me as soon as the door opened. Caroline greeted me too. She's tall, with long red curly hair, and wore black leggings, a baggy white sweater, and no shoes. Her toenails were painted dark red. The rest of her family, her wife Lisa and their son Beckett, must have been out because I couldn't hear anyone else in the house. Down, boy, I said, scratching No Farm behind his ears and trying to get him to calm down, or at least get him off me. No jumping, No Farm, said Caroline. Down, boy. Sorry, Maggie, please come in. Caroline gestured towards the messy living room. Welcome to our new home. I stepped inside and surveyed the scene. The place was filled with boxes. Most were empty, but some were still full and stacked taller than me. Crumpled newspaper littered the floor, and those styrofoam peanut things were everywhere. I like the new place, I said this to be polite, but actually I couldn't tell whether I liked the place or not. The living room was such a mess. I had to stretch my imagination. The apartment had the potential to be lovely, though. It was on the 5th floor, which meant it rose above the treetops and faced the park, which I could see from the large windows in back. Wait until we're actually set up, said Caroline. Of course, you may have to wait a while. I can't believe how hard this move has been. I'm sure, I said. Let me know if I can help. Oh, you're helping by walking No Farm. Believe me. But since you mention it, we could use another favor. How do you feel about babysitting? I love it, I said. Wait, I should be more accurate. I assume I will love it, but I don't know for sure because I've never done it before. But Finn is my twin brother, just took a babysitting safety class at the local hospital. Impressive, Caroline said with a nod. You've actually studied up on babysitting. I didn't know that was possible. I shrugged. It was my mom's idea, actually. She's like that, always thinking ahead, planning, and signing us up for stuff. She's not into us having downtime. It's true, too. If my mom finds out we're having nothing to do on a Saturday, she has this amazing ability to find an Indian cooking class, a claymation workshop, or an origami folding lesson nearby. And if all else fails, she'll volunteer us to sort through clothes at the Salvation Army. Except last month, the Salvation Army warehouse had a bed bug scare, so that's why she signed us up for the babysitting preparation course at the local hospital instead. So, are you willing? To babysit, I mean, asked Caroline, because it's our anniversary next Saturday night, and we're really into a bind. Yes, definitely. Wait, you do mean babysit for Beckett, right? Caroline smiled and raised her eyebrows. He is our only child, for the time being. Right, I knew that. Just clarifying, I said. Beckett, Lisa and Caroline's son, is cute, but kind of a handful. And when I say kind of, I mean really. Last week, Beckett's moms had to take him to the emergency room because he told them he swallowed a nail. It turned out he did it on purpose. He wanted to know what it would feel like going down. It felt painful, apparently. They told me he bawled for the entire taxi ride to the emergency room. But luckily for him, there was no permanent damage because Beckett hadn't swallowed a nail. He swallowed a small garden snail. His moms had misheard him. The doctor seemed less alarmed about the snail. It would pass naturally, he told them. And it did. Not that I have physical evidence. I don't need it. That's the kind of thing I'd rather take their word for. The more I thought about it, the more I realized babysitting for Beckett could be fairly complicated. On the other hand, what else was I going to do on a Saturday night? There was nothing good on TV that I could recall. Sure, I'd love to, I said. Oh, that's fantastic, Maggie. Thank you. We're having some issues with our regular sitter. Issues? I couldn't help but ask. Caroline rolled her eyes. Yep, ever since the move, she's a little superstitious. In fact, she won't even set foot in the building. When she found out where we'd moved, she quit via text message. Is it because of that old ghost story? I asked. You heard about it too, said Caroline. Yep, just now. My boyfriend Milo told me about it right before I showed up. I didn't mention that we'd also kind of fought about it and Milo had stormed off. That seemed like too much information, although it was on my mind. Did you hear she cleans? The ghost, I mean. She was a maid from Ireland. Margaret was her name, and apparently she still dusts. Milo didn't go into any details, I said. I did know her name was Margaret. Isn't that your name, too? Asked Caroline. Technically, I said, but no one calls me that. I've been Maggie forever. I told Lisa if the ghost made clean, she can stay as long as she wants. That's exactly what. Caroline was interrupted by a loud booming sound and the shattering of glass. What was that? Caroline asked, hurrying to the back of the apartment. I followed her to the master bedroom, where both of us stood froze and stared at each other in shock. A giant mirror lay in the middle of the room, like it had face planted there. Razor-sharp pieces of glass everywhere. Unbelievable, said Caroline. That was my favorite piece of furniture. How'd that happen, do you think? I wondered. Caroline shrugged. It was propped up on the wall, and I guess it wasn't secure. The wind must have knocked it down. This explanation made sense. It was kind of windy outside. But here's the weird thing. When I glanced at the wall of windows on the other side of the room, I couldn't help but notice that every single one of them was closed. All right, that was the end of chapter 4. Got some spooky things going on. Got some spooky things. So the mansion is apparently haunted by a maid from Ireland. Apparently she still cleans and moves stuff around in the house. Milo is afraid. And then we also got to meet Caroline, and she has a son, Beckett, and the dog, No Farm. And I guess Caroline's babysitter was also afraid. She quit. And then, say, uh-oh. And then something or someone knocked over a mirror and shattered it. Caroline thought it was the wind, but the windows were not open. Not open. I guess we'll have to find out what that was in chapter 5.